This is Shyam from Ekascloud. So in this video, I am going to give an introduction on Linux, and we are going to discuss the structure or components of Linux. So before moving to Linux, I will explain what operating system is. So as you all know, Linux is operating system. So first we have to know what is the operating system. I have mentioned it as OS here. So what operating system is? So let's take, we have a hardware here. So this is the hardware, which is nothing but your CPU or the disk or the memory you have. So here we have user or software created by users, right? So here we have users or software. So operating system is nothing but it is an intermediate software layer which will act as a bridge between the hardware and the software. So operating system will act as a bridge between these two layers. Here we will have our operating system. So using this operating system, we can use the memory in the hardware, we can use this processing in the hardware. So this is the software or the user. So as a user, we can create file or folder and we can store in the memory, right? Hardware will come, the memory will come under hardware, right? So with the help of the operating system we can do this, and operating system will also provide memory management, network management, device management and process management. So we can interact, we can make an interaction between a software and the hardware or the users and the hardware with the help of the operating system. So how we can interact? So there are two ways of interacting with the hardware. So there is something called GUI, graphical user interface, and there is something called CLI, command line interface. So nowadays we are using graphical user interface to create a file or a folder or anything. So for example, I am creating a folder with the help of this here. I will create new and will create folder. I am creating new Linux GUI. So I've created a folder with the help of the graphical user interface provided by the Windows, right? So I can do this, creating a folder in the command line interface also. I'm opening the terminal of this desktop so that I can see the output here. So I'm creating a folder with the command like mkdir. I'm creating new Linux CLI. So this is the name of the folder or directory which I am giving. Mkdir is nothing but make directory, and this is the path I am going to create this folder. So I am creating a directory or folder named new Linux CLI and I am clicking enter. Once I click the enter, the file is created. As we can see the output here, new Linux CLI. So this is the folder I have created with the help of this command line interface CLI. So these are the two methods of interacting with the hardware. So operating system will help us to bridge between the software and the hardware, or we can say user and the hardware. So this is main about operating system. Next I will explain Linux. So as I said before, Linux is operating system. There are many operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac OS, etc. So why Linux is used common in many companies or enterprise still now? Because we have Windows upgrading like Windows 10, Windows 11, and we have Mac OS with great graphical user interface. But still, why Linux is used in companies or enterprise while hosting a server, a database server, a web server? So Linux is a open source software. Another important advantage is that it is free. So when you want to create buy a original Windows thing, we have to pay, right? So Linux operating system is free, and the most important advantage is this more secure when compared to other operating system. So Linux is an open source, free and secure operating system. So this is the reason why companies or enterprise are still using Linux in their companies. So this is the main thing. So next I will explain about the components or structure of the Linux operating system. So I will delete all this. So I will explain. So I will explain the structure of Linux. So as I said before, there will be hardware and there will be software at the top. So in between we will have the operating system. So we are going to see what are the different components inside the Linux operating system. So this will be operating system. Okay. Operating system. This will be hardware which will contain all our memory, CPU, everything. So and this is the user application or the software. So now I am going to explain all the different components inside the operating system. So first we will have Linux kernel. So this is responsible for all the process like memory management, network management, disk management, and process management. So Linux kernel is a component which will help us to do all these things. So like memory management is like allocating and deallocating RAM for us, and memory management is like it's taking care of the memory, like how much memory is left and allocating files and folders for the memory like that. So this all will come under Linux kernel, and there is something called device driver inside this Linux kernel. So device drivers are nothing but, for example, let's say we buy a PC and we are buying a printer also. So this will be your personal computer and this will be your printer. So even though we connect the personal computer with the printer, we connect in the CPU, will connect using USB or HDMI. The operating system have to connect with the printer, right? For this, we will install something called device drivers. So for each printer, there will be driver, and we have to install that. Then only we will be able to operate this printer with the help of this personal computer. So the personal computer is physically connected to the printer now, but for for utilizing the printer, we have to install something called device drivers, and these device drivers will be in this Linux kernel. So this is most important. So in top of Linux kernel, we have something called the system utilities. So this system utilities will have all the command line interface, like say all the command which we are going to use, and on top of that we will have system libraries. So system libraries are nothing but these are the pre-built functions or the libraries which are built so that we can install these libraries and we can use the libraries for all those things. So on top of system libraries, the final will be CLI or the shell. So in this we will type our command and we will execute our operations. So if you want to create a file or a folder, we can do this, or we can change the file permissions, we can do all those things in this CLI or shell. So this is the basic structure of Linux. So this is the user application of the software which we are using, and this is the hardware, and in between there will be operating system, and there are many components in this operating system like Linux kernel, system utilities, system libraries, and on top of that we will have our CLI or uh, shell. So this is the structure of the Linux, or we can say the components of Linux. So next I will explain Linux distributions. So Linux distributions are nothing but, so as I said before, Linux is operating system, right? Linux is a operating system, and many companies, with the help of the Linux operating system, they have created many distributions. So many operating system like Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat. So you can say like Ubuntu, CentOS. So these are the various Linux distribution. They have added a feature in the Linux as it is open source. They have added the feature, many features in the Linux, and they have released as a Linux distribution, or they have released as a operating system. So now Ubuntu is the most powerful and it is very beginner friendly to use. So Ubuntu is used most nowadays. So this is about the Linux distributions. There are many things Linux distributions like Red Hat, Debian, Alpine. So on top of this Linux operating system, they have added a feature and they have released as a distribution or as a operating system. So this is all about Linux distributions. So now I will explain how to install Linux inside our Windows machine. So there is something called as WSL, which is nothing but Windows Subsystem for Linux. So with the help of this, you don't have to install any virtual machine. You don't have to run any instance. So we can practice all the Linux command, all the Linux things with the help of the WSL. So we have to install this. So when we go to this documentation, we can see that we have to copy this command and we can paste this in the PowerShell or command prompt, and this will install the WSL. You can paste this here, and I have already installed this in my computer. So once you copy this copy paste this thing, your WSL will get installed in the computer. So to check that, we can type like WSL and give enter. As you can see, I have launched by Linux instance. So in Linux, there are something important like root account and user account. So while root account is nothing but the root account is like our administrator, right? So it will have all the permissions to work on this Linux machine. Whereas user account, we will have limited permission. We can grant permission, ignore permissions, and we can do anything. So after installing WSL, it is mandatory to create one user account, and it is mandatory to use one user account. And if you want to create many users, also we can create. But after installing WSL, you have to create one user account with the password. So after I've created before. So this is the user account I have created, Shyam, and this is the host name. So how we can check this host name? So I will go to my PC. I will open my properties. As you can see, my device name is Sham user, and on top of this host, we have we have opened our Linux, and this is the path. So I will change directory and go to the home directory. So by default, the user account will open in WSL. To move from user account to root account, we have to give command sudo -s, and it will ask password for this user account which we have given first. I'm giving the password. Now I have moved to the root account. So this is mentioned root account, and I have created, this is the host name. So we can check all the files and folders. So I am listing like ls. So these are the files and folders which are present in my root account in my Linux machine. And this is the command line way of using, and we can see it as also graphical interface also. When you go to this Linux, after installing WSL, you can see here in my computer you can see Linux, and when we see open Ubuntu, you can see all the files and folder which we have seen here also. Bin dev home, you can see all the folder and files here also. So this is how we can install Linux on our Windows machine, and we can perform all the Linux command. In this, we can create users, and we can perform everything in root account also. So that's it about this video. So thank you.